height of a sukkah. That's what we're looking to figure out. So, and as we explained, the pasuk says, there's a pasuk that says Hashemayim Shemayim LaHashem Ba'aretz LaSan L'Bnei Adam, that the heavens, Hashem, where the Shechina is, and the Aretz LaSan L'Bnei Adam, Hashem gave to the human beings, and the divine presence, we said, doesn't come lower than 10 tefachim. And therefore, we said that 10 tefachim, and we said that the divine presence speaks by the top of the Aron. It says al Pnei HaKaporet, the top of the Aron is where the divine presence speaks. And that's its own domain. That spot on top of the Kaporet is of God, so to speak, that the divine presence could come there. And underneath there is domain of person. And so we see that there's a separate domain between the space where the divine presence comes down, which is on top of the kaporet, beneath. And therefore, if we could identify what is that domain that's underneath, what is that separate domain that's underneath? The divine presence comes up to the top of the kaporet, not lower than that. So we said that the top of the kaporet, we said is 10 tefachim. It's at the height of the kaporet from the bottom of where the ark is. It's a 10 tefachim height. So the Gemara says that that's a separate domain. The 10 tefachim, which belongs to the human being, is separated from above, which is similar to a sukkah. That a sukkah also has its own domain, and therefore the domain needs to be a minimum height of 10 tefachim. That's what our Gemara is saying. But the Gemara wants to figure out, how do we know that domain from the ground until the top of the kaporet, until the top of the aron, is 10 tefachim? How do you know that's 10 tefachim? Maybe the domain of a person is 100 tefachim. So the Gemara wants to prove that the top of the kaporet, if you go from the ground to the top of the kaporet, where God started to speak, where the divine presence begins on the top of the kaporet, is a 10 tefachim height. From the ground to the top of the kaporet is 10 tefachim, and then starts a new domain where the divine presence speaks from. How do we know that the aron and the kaporet, that the top of the aron, which is the kaporet, the height of that is a total of 10 tefachim? So that's where the Gemara is going back and forth. The Gemara says there's a pasuk that says, Amma v'chetzi kamoto. The pasuk says that the height of the aron, the height of the ark, was 1.5 amot. And amma is 6 tefachim. And amma is like a larger measurement, like a gallon has a certain amount of quarts. So an amma has a certain amount of tefachim. It's broken down into 6 parts to make up an amma. So we have 6 tefachim make up an amma. So therefore, if it's an amma v'chetzi, if the height is 1.5 amot, so therefore the aron itself is 9 tefachim. We've established that the aron is 9 tefachim, but we need to figure out what's the top of the aron, because that's where the new domain begins, the top of the aron, on top of the kaporet. So it will depend on what is the size of the kaporet, what is the size of the cover of the aron. And the Gemara said that the size of the cover of the aron was 1 tefach. The thickness of the cover was 1, like we said, the thickness, if this is the cover, what is the thickness? The height, what is the height of this kaporet? 1 tefach height. You have the aron underneath, which is a box which contains the luchot, the tablets, which is 9 tefachim high, and then the box ends here, and then we got 1 more tefach that the box goes up, and therefore that makes a total of 10 tefachim. That was what our Gemara. Now the Gemara is trying to figure out, where do we get this tefach? Where do we learn this tefach from? So the list, if we go back to the bottom of 5a, just maybe we should start from that point where the Gemara began. Rav Huna Amar Mehacha. Rav Huna, that's 5a3 on the bottom. Rav Huna says Mehacha. It says Al Pnei HaKaporet Kedma. It talks when it talks about the kaporet, it talks about there's a Pnei HaKaporet. There's the face of the kaporet. This is talking about sprinkling of the blood, And by saying that the kapor has a face, a face of a human being is not less than, since we find that a face is a minimum of a tefach, therefore the smallest face is the minimum of a tefach. So therefore, when we say that the kaporet has a size of a tefach, because you refer to the face of the kaporet, it has a face. It was something, the blood was sprinkled in front of the face of the kaporet, and that's, therefore, it shows you its size is the tefach. So the Gemara says, you talk about faces. How do you know that the face, maybe it's we know a face, there could be a bird that has a tremendous face. The aim, so why are you looking at a human being's face when it says the face of the kaporet? Maybe the face is similar to the face of a big bird that has a tremendous face. The aim of ka'api davi yochani. Maybe it's, if now we're turning the page on Hey Am Beis on 5b. Maybe it's like the face of a certain big bird, and its face is much more than a few inches. So the Gemara says the rule that we said yesterday or the other day: tefasta meruba lo tefasta, tefasta muad tefasta. What does that mean? That means that I'll give you the example. If somebody says, I owe you hundreds of dollars. I owe you hundreds of dollars. So hundreds of dollars, the minimum of hundreds of dollars is $200. Now, it's possible you owe him $300. You owe him $400. Hundreds is minimum 200. Is that correct, Jaime? I think that's the minimum of hundreds. Two. Right? Now, if someone says to you, they owe you hundreds of dollars, if you take $200, you for sure have a right to $200. $300, we don't know. $400, we don't know. So if you take 200, you definitely took at least what's coming to you. If you take 300, it's possible you took more than what's coming to you. And therefore, it's possible then you might have to return $100. So it looks like you did something that it might be not honest, because you might have taken something that's not wrong, you have no right to. But when you take the $200, someone says he owes you hundreds of dollars, you take 200, there's nothing that you did that looks possibly dishonest of you by taking 200. You might have a right to more. You're not going to have to give back $100 because you might have a right to collect more than the 200. So that's the idea. So if you have a question of if you want to know what the measurement is of something, you don't take a measurement that maybe you're actually taking more of, and therefore it's more like you would take the minimum of that measurement. It's possible you could always add to a measurement, but you can't. But to give back would look inappropriate. So that's what the Gemara is saying. If there's a measurement, if there's a possible measurement of something, and if we don't know what it is, we go with the smaller size. Because the smaller size, it's at least that. It's not that it's you took something more and you have to return. That is the ruling. And therefore, if I have a question, whether I have two things to possibly draw from. Either to look at the face of a human being. When it says a face of the kaporet, which face does it refer to, the smaller size or the larger size? We would go with the smaller size. The smaller size would be the appropriate thing to choose. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, you go with the smaller size. A very small bird, a little pigeon or whatever, small little bird. What's the size of that face? It could be a much smaller size of smaller than a tef, very, very small. So very good. So I don't know if I hear you. Is that on my end or that's your end, Jaime?
I think it's your end because I'm not on mute.
Okay, now I hear you. Good morning, Ariel. Now I hear you. So the Gemara says, how do you know if you're taking a smaller size, take the size of a small bird? So the Gemara shoots back, okay. We have to have a different explanation. Omar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Rav Huna pnei gomar. He learns, he has a gzeira shaveh. He has the word by the kaporet, and he has another word, a similar word found by a human being, and therefore he knows that we need to connect the dots. The pnei, the face of the kaporet, is symbolic of the face of a human being, not a face of a small bird, because it says over here, Sivhacha al pnei kaporet, the face of the kaporet, uksiv hadam by Yaakov, after he received the brachot from Yitzchak, his father, it says, Yaakov left the pnei Yitzchak aviv. Yaakov left, remember the amazing story, the amazing miracle that Esav came in right after Yaakov received the brachot. The timing, the unbelievable timing, which is one of the commentaries point out, that's obviously the chesed, the kindness of Hashem, because if Esav would have walked in a minute earlier, a second earlier, who knows, he would have been there, he would have maybe stopped the brachot, or who knows what would have happened. But Esav came in, it says, the pasuk says, right when Yaakov left, that's when Esav walked in. Yaakov just left. The timing, a lot of people say in life, timing is everything, right? I don't know if the timing is everything. Timing is very important. Yes, I don't know if it's everything. But the idea that over there we see an illustration of the timing of Yaakov leaving and Esav walking in. So it says Pnei over there, and it says Pnei by the Kaporet and Pnei by Yitzchak. And therefore we learn out that just like Yitzchak's face was a tefach, so too the Pnei, not that Yitzchak's face was a tefach, that a face of a human being is at least a tefach. So therefore also the face of the kaporet of the cover of the ark was, was a tefach. So the Gemara says we have another pasuk. It says, "V'nelech miponim shamayla." Why don't you learn from the face of like angels, celestial beings, like an angel? Because the angels, they have an image. Obviously, there's no physical, but it appears like they look like even people are not supposed to make pictures, draw pictures, images of angels, because but the angels, it says a language of Pnei by angels, Ksiv, Kirot Pnei Elokim Matirtzeni. Yaakov, when Yaakov meets Esav, he says, when I saw see your face, it's so chashuv, so special to me, like when I saw the face of the malach. When I saw the malach, Yaakov was referring to the fact that he saw Esav's malach, and he actually defeated Esav's malach, and he tells Esav, seeing you is like so special, like I saw the malach. And since we see this is what Yaakov says to Esav. When Yaakov wants to, in a certain sense, he wants Esav to accept his gift. He wants Esav to forgive him, because Esav was running after Yaakov, trying to kill Yaakov. So Yaakov says to him that please accept my gift, just like, because you're so special to me, like as if I saw the same way when I saw the malach. When I saw the angel was very special, so I want you also, seeing you is also very special, very honorable to me, and please accept my gift. So we see, and the way, good morning, Michael, good morning, Mr. Silverman. But Yaakov wants to keep with his brother because he doesn't want his brother to kill him. He's not looking to be close with his brother because his brother has a different lifestyle, different culture, and therefore, when it's after Esav accepted the gift from Yaakov, Esav says, I want you to come to me, come to my town, come to my home, and spend time with us. And Yaakov says to Esav, the kids takes a long time for the kids to travel. I have also all these animals, I have all these children, it'll take time. As Rabbi Feinstein explained, Rabbi Feinstein said he never went to Esav. Esav tells, come to my home, come to Seir. Yaakov says it takes too long because of the kids, but he never showed up. Because he can't show up. He can't move into the community to Esav. Esav lives a different life. And that's what Yaakov never showed up. But he needed to stop the animosity, that danger of that he was threatening. Esav was threatening to kill the Jewish community. He's coming with 400 men to destroy Yaakov. So Yaakov had to buy him off, so to speak. That's when you have to buy somebody to save the Jewish community. And that's what has been done throughout our history. That Hashem, one of the things that Hashem has given wealth to the Jewish community. One of the reasons why Hashem has given wealth to the Jewish community, I think over the years, is one of the brachot in the exile, that they should be able to use the wealth to help protect the Jewish community. And just like symbolic of what Yaakov did, he used his wealth, the blessing that Hashem gave him, and he gave some of it to Esav to buy him off. That's how you keep them under the control, and that's how we've lived over the centuries. Okay, so the Gemara says, so why don't you learn, Michael, Mr. Silverman, we are on Hey Amud Beis, we are on 5B, in the art scroll, it's 5B1, on the first column. So the Gemara says, why don't you learn out from, if you're learning out from the face of the kaporet, we find the face of the angel, which appears more than a tefach. The face of an angel in the imagery, or whatever, in the way it looks, the description would most likely be more than a tefach. Such an angel. So the Gemara says, again, the same principle that we said before. Tefasta merubal or tefasta mua tefasta. If you have a choice of picking a size that might be the minimum size, or maybe you're making a mistake, you're taking larger than what's called for, you always go with the minimum size. And therefore, the minimum size, if you have a choice, either the size of the face of a person, which is the minimum size over here, where the Torah says the word pinei, where the Torah uses the word face, or using the face of an angel, which would be a larger size, you want to go with the smaller size, because the smaller size you can always add. But if you take the larger, when you're supposed to take smaller, so therefore you look like a liar. The Gemara says, "V'neilef mikruv." We find one of the kruvim on the Aron. The ksiv el hakaporet yepnei karuvim. It says that the kruvim, the cherubs, were facing the kaporet, and the kruvim, the Gemara is thinking that the cherubs, the face of the kruvim, is less than a tefach. It's smaller than a tefach. I mean, we know that the kruvim were, at least one of the opinions, the kruvim were children. And so maybe the Gemara is understanding, therefore it should be less than a tefach. The Gemara says, we have a tradition that the faces of the kruvim were not less than a tefach. I just want to tell you, mention to everybody that the Gemara is going to say in a moment that the kruvim were faces of children. But I want to tell you, there is an opinion out there that the kruvim were the faces of a husband and a wife, and that was with symbolic a certain love, symbolic of a husband and a wife.
What's the source of that opinion, Rabbi? Does that opinion bring a source?
I have to look. It's in the Mikrot Gedolat Chumash. It might, I think it might be a quote from a Gemara. If you remind me, I'll try to look it up. I thought it was a beautiful idea. And the way I think it was a beautiful idea and I think it was an expression of the love of a husband and a wife, which is symbolic of the love of God and the Jewish people. And that was the sign of the husband and the wife on top of the kruvim, pointed that opinion. Our Gemara here is going to talk about children, and we're going to see about that in a moment, which is a beautiful idea of the children are on our own. The famous, that's the more famous shot. The children, the cherubs are the faces of children, where the idea is that where are the children of, they used to say it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Remember that when I was growing up. Now the question is, where are the children of the Jewish community? The children need to be on top of their own. They need to be connected to Torah, Jewish education. That's where the children have to be. If the children are on the top of their own, then the Jewish community is going to make it. When the children are connected to Torah, that's where the focus has to be. In a shul, in a community, what's happening with the kids? That's the big question. Where are they holding? Of course, we have to take care of the adults too, but the kids, the adults, we have to remember that it has put a tremendous focus on the kids. So that's what the Gemara is going to say. Rav Huna nami mehacha gamir. So Rav Huna is also, the Gemara saying, he's learning from the kruvim, that the kruvim says Pnei, she talks about it says the Pnei Kaporet, that the Keruvim were, Kaporet was the Pnei Keruvim, and the face of the Keruvim is a Tefach, so the face of the Kaporet is also a Tefach, and therefore we've concluded with this opinion that the height, the thickness of the cover of the Aron was one Tefach, because it says Pnei, it says the word Pnei by the Kaporet, by the cover, it says Pnei by the Kruvim, and the same way the Kruvim, the face of the cherub was one Tefach, so too the face of this Kaporet was also one Tefach.
Rabbi,
yes.
We're supposed to have a kavana for our tefillot to be at that location, at the kerubim, in between their faces. That's where we're supposed to have our kavana in the Amidah, that our tefillot are going to. That is the holiest of holies, that location. And that's where our tefillot are supposed to go to. We're facing east to face the Kodesh Kodeshim. And the real kavana is that we're supposed to have looking at the keruvim in between them, and that's where we're praying to Hashem.
Beautiful. Umay kruv. Now the Gemara says, what is the word kruv? So the Gemara says, Oma Rab Abuhu, kiravia. Kruv is like, ravia is like a child. Kiravia, it's like the face of a child. She came in Bavel, Korin the Yenuka Ravia. In Bavel, what do they call a child? Ravia. So kruv is from the language of a child, and that's what the kruvim is like. That's what the word kruv is, like a child. That's the face of the kruvim. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye says, but the elameata, it's the ksiv by the Yecheskel, when he saw his nevuah, the Merkavah, he saw the special of prophecy, when he saw the images of what goes on in heaven and certain things, he saw four kruvim. He saw four cherubs, and each kruv had four faces. There's the whole kruv above panim.
6 weeks.
And Pnei Echad, and one face was Pnei Kruv. One face was the face of a kruv, which is like that child that we said. Or Pnei Sheni, Pnei Adam. The second face was the face of a person. And the third face, it says, was the face of a lion, and the fourth face was the face of an eagle. Of course, everything has a lot of, depth to why these are the faces. But so the Gemara's challenge is, Hainu Kruv, Hainu Adam. We said that a Kruv kruv is a child, but a child is a person. So the fact that it says that Pnei HaKruv, Pnei Adam, when it describes the four faces of each kruv, and you describe one face as a kruv and one face as a person, would sound like that a kruv is not the face of a child, because a child is the face of a person. So if you separate and you call it, there's a face of a person and there's a face of a child, so it's the face of a kruv, it sounds like kruv is not a person, not a child. Because if it's a child, then that's the face of a person. The Gemara answers, it's a different type of a person. There's a face of an adult, of a mature person, then there's a face of a child. So that's why it's separated, that one is called the face of a person and the face of a kruv. Even though a kruv is a person, but it's a different type of person, it's a different size. That's what the Gemara answers. There is the larger faces. That's when it says Adam is referring to the larger face. And when it says Kruv, it's referring to Ape Zutre. They saw a smaller face of the child. That's why the pasuk separates them. Okay. Now the Gemara goes, but now we have concluded that piece, and we've identified that the height of the wall is 10 tfachim. Okay. So now the Gemara wants to know that Mimai dechalala asara bar misachacha. We said that the space, the inside space of a sukkah, we said, what is the inside space of a sukkah? You have to have at least 10 tfachim. 10 tfachim from the ground to the schach, correct? 10 tfachim from the ground to the schach.
40 inches.
So the Gemara's question is, now if that's the case, how do we know that it's 10 tfachim besides not including the schach? Ema, we should say bahadai schacha, together with the schach. Why is that? Because just like the Aron with the kaporet, the Aron together with the kaporet was a total of 10 tfachim, and the cover of the Aron was so the total height of the Aron with the kaporet was 10 tfachim. So we should say that the total height of the sukkah, we should say that, meaning you had the space of the Aron, and then you had the cover, and that the space together with the cover is considered the proper height. That's the domain. That's the separate domain. We said that above the 10 tfachim is the domain where the Shechina comes above 10 tfachim. But 10 tfachim and down is the separate domain. And therefore, the wall of a sukkah could be 10 tfachim high. Okay, so now we establish that the wall of a sukkah is 10 tfachim. But we should also establish that the same way the Aron had a cover, and the cover was part of the 10 tfachim, so too, we should also say that the schach, if you have a wall, and let's say the top of this wall, the wall goes as 10 tfachim, but I have schach, let's say I have the schach right across, and now it's 10 tfachim high, but in the schach take up a certain amount of space. Let's say the schach is 1 tefach. I got 1 tefach of schach. I put on top of the wall. I put the top tefach of the wall. Let's say is schach. I filled with schach. The wall is 9 tefachim high, and now there's one more, the thickness is, the wall goes up a 10 tefach because of the schach. Why shouldn't that be good? Because the same way that the aron, you had the aron, which was 9 tvachim, then you had the cover, and that cover makes, together with the aron, made up the 10 tvachim. So we should say also by a sukkah, we should say, and we know we don't say that. We know that the Mishnahs that we indicate that you have to have an empty space inside the sukkah of 10 tvachim, and then comes the schach. But if you're learning from the aron was 9 tvachim and then the cover. So we should say the same thing as sukkah. You should be able to have a 9 tefach wall plus the top tefach is the schach, and that will make 10 tvachim. So why do we say, Ariel, that you have to have 10 tvachim inside airspace, then comes the schach? That is the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says, Ella, so now the Gemara says a different source, that how do we know that the space that's inside the sukkah has to be the size of 10 tvachim? So the Gemara says we have to say we base olamim gomar. We learn from the Beit HaMikdash. What do we learn from the Beit HaMikdash? The Ksiv, when the Beit HaMikdash that Shlomo HaMelech built, says, "V'bayit asher banu Shlomo laHashem," the house that Shlomo built laHashem was Shishim Amah Orko, was 60 amot long. So let's say amah could be 1.5 to 2 feet. The largest size it would be, according to that, it could be 120 feet long, according to that the larger description. It's 120 feet. It's not such a large, not such a large space, right? If you think about a football field, is 100 yards, right? 100 yards is a football field, which is what, 300 feet, right? Correct. So this is according to this. So now the height. So it says 60 amo was the length. The esim rochbo, and 20 amot was the width. Ushloshim ama komoto. The height of the Beit HaMikdash, pretty tall. Between, according to one opinion, it would be around 60 feet high. Shloshim ama komoto. And then we have a pasuk that says regarding how high were the kruvim in the Beit HaMikdash. Komat hakruv echad eso ba'amah, v'chein hakruv hasheni. The kruvim, interesting, in the Beit HaMikdash, the kruvim were not on top of the aron. They were not on top of the ark, which is always the picture that we have of the kruvim. That's in the Mishkan. In the Beit HaMikdash, the kruvim were standing on the floor of the Mikdash. And it says that the height of the kruv was 10 amot high. So the Tanya, we looked at a brighter. So it comes out that the height of the kruv, if you go from the head of the kruv, is 10 amot high, which is a third of the height of the Beit HaMikdash. So therefore, there was 10 amot high was the kruv, and then the height of the ceiling of the Beit HaMikdash was 30 amot. Now, the Tanya, we found in the Beit HaMikdash, kruvim b'shlish habayit hin omdim. The height of the kruvim were 1/3 of the height of the Beit HaMikdash. So too, the Mishkan, nami kruvim b'shlish habayit hin omdim. In the Mishkan, the kruvim also stood in 1/3 of the bayit. 1/3 of the height, it came 1/3 high. The head of the kruvim was at 1/3 point of the height of the Mishkan. The same way, everything is exact and everything is connected. The same way in the Beit HaMikdash, if you would measure what percentage, the height of the Beis Hamikdash did the Kruvim come? The Kruvim came 1/3 in the height of the Beis Hamikdash. So too, when it came to the Mishkan, it was 1/3 the height of the Mishkan. And now the Gemara is going to figure out the math. Mishkan kamahave. How tall was the Mishkan? Interesting, the Mishkan was 1/3 the height of the Mikdash. But the Mishkan in the desert that they made was 10 amot high.
From the outside.
Or at least from the board, the height, the board that stood, that the Mishkan had all these boards around them. The height of the board, how high was the board? 10 amot, as the Gemara brings. Esa amot tiksiv, esa amot orecha keresh. The height of the board was 10 amot. Kama havele, 10 amot is 6 tfachim to an amah. Kama havele shitim pushchim. The 10 amot equals 60 tfachim high. Plus a kama havele, what is a third of 60? 20. Plus a esim pushchim. So there was 20. So therefore, at 20 tfachim high, that's where the Kruvim had to go to the height of 20 tfachim in the Mishkan. Now, Asara, the Aron Kaporet, there was 10 tfachim for the Aron and the Kaporet. They took up a space which we proved was 10 tfachim. Poshilu Asara, and it's left 10 tfachim from the height of for the Kruvim. They were spreading their wings, and they were a height of 10 tfachim. We'll see tomorrow morning. We'll continue tomorrow with this limud, how the Gemara is learning out the space inside the Sukkah. I want to wish everyone a great day. All the best, everybody. Thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you very much. You'll be able to take it. I misplaced Dr. Navid's number. Yeah. Quiet day today.
I sent it.
Yeah, take care. Great day. You too.
I
Super.
texted to you that.
Great day, Jaime. I didn't see it. Maybe okay.
It should be in your inbox.
Okay, so I'll look for it.
If you didn't